Well, hi, welcome again. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 14th of March, 2026, and I'm alone again, and I have no message again. Though I've just been editing the meeting with Clinton from last night, and I thought, well, I'll continue on from where I was talking about when Clinton came into the meeting last night. Now, I was talking about different kinds of ministries. Some people focus on particular things and they only preach about particular things. Some people only ever preach about revelation, and others only ever preach about prophecy, and others only ever preach about finance. I do have a pet um, subject, which is charis and how God takes your life and changes you, and how you become a godly person, not from you walking away from sin, not from you trying to not sin, but from you focusing on God so much that who even thinks about sin if all they've got in their mind is God? That's my pet subject, but it's not my only subject. I find often that many preachers and pastors and whoever really only ever talk about one thing. Now, this is not necessarily the majority of them, but still quite a few, where they will speak on Revelation and Revelation only. That's all they ever preach on. That seems to be the only book of the Bible that they've ever opened. It seems to me that lately, around about half, almost half of my messages have been on Charis. And I do that primarily because all I'm doing is expressing what I myself am learning. I'm not a person that has recently completed Bible college. I did do Bible college 26, 27, 28 years ago, whenever it was, long time ago. And I backslid and I've been away from God for 23 years and I came back to God not quite a year ago, but close to that. And having been back with God for most of a year, when I came back to God, I came across grace and I looked into grace and I found the word defined as grace as charis, and I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly. The pronunciation is given as KHAR apostrophe hyphen ECE. So that would imply to me charis, though it's the same word that when you add an MA, you've got charisma. So I would think charis without the M, charis. And I've been saying charis, but again, still learning on this. I looked at it again yesterday or the day before, and I noticed that it was hyphen ECE. So as far as the pronunciation goes, so it's is, charis. And the H is silent because a K uh, implies a K. Um, so KHAR would be K, charis. Okay, so I'm learning about it all the time. When I first learned about it many months ago, I would quote Strong's definition a lot. Then I discovered Thayer's definition, which is far more appropriate. And I've gone into using Thayer's definition more than Strong's. I'm still learning about this wonderful word, charis, that is translated into grace. And it's the most important word in the Bible, other than the names of God. And the title, God. And when I say the title, God, you see, we find different titles for God. We find Yahweh, which is the way I pronounce that, YHWH. Now, in English, we have added to Yahweh an O, an A, uh, and or originally it was an A and an E, and it became Yahweh, Yahweh, and we in English changed the Y to a J because of the way the English language formed, and it, the pronunciation vowels we changed because we don't know exactly how to pronounce Yahweh, which is vowelless. YHWH, no vowels, because the Hebrew language didn't use vowels, just consonants. So Yahweh seems to sound like Jehovah, Yahweh, Jehovah, and it became Jehovah. However, we also find God being referred to by Eloha and Elohim. Elohim, primary, meaning gods. Eloha, meaning God, singular. Now, Elohim is far more common than Eloha. Elohim, in the beginning, Elohim created heaven and earth. Gods created existence. And when it says gods, the implication is towards the Trinity. God, one God, who has the aspect of multiple gods. Eloha is a singular God, not a, it's not gods, it's just God, singular. However, if I say the church, I'm not talking about churches. I'm talking about a single church. But a single church is made up of many people. So even though Eloha, Eloah, um, it can be spelled two ways as well, Eloah or HA. So even though it represents or it refers to one God, well, like one church, it can still be built up of multiple things. And that's why it's very rarely used in the Bible. It's mostly Elohim that is used in the Bible. Now, the inference there is that the nature of God is exposed in every way God is referred to, whether it be Yahweh or Jehovah or Eloha or Elohim or Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah, whatever it might be. You see, there would always, well, not always, there would often be uh, aspects of God revealed within God's name. So Yahweh Jireh, which is, I believe, God that provides, or there is God that does this, or God that does that, whatever it might be. There's another one that might be God that saves. I don't recall them. I only recall Jehovah Jireh. Again, I've been backslidden for 23 years, ever since. around about 2001 to about early 2025, and this is now 2026, nearly a year ago. So I'm trying to remember back pretty much 25 years ago, and this information is not fresh. However, I still remember it primarily. I can still tell you there are many different names of God. I can still tell you it's Jehovah Jireh or Jehovah something else. I just don't remember what the something else might be. Now, that is why the names of God are important, and the name of God's important to start off with anyway. But because there are multiple names of God, because there are different aspects of God shown through the names, it is the most important word in the Bible, the name of God, whichever name that is. Yet, at the same time, or the aspect of God, Eloha, Elohim, uh, that is very important. But other than that, grace, because Jesus came to do was to deliver grace. He sacrificed his life on the cross to deliver grace. The postman comes to your door and knocks on your door to deliver a parcel. Is the knocking on the door important? A little bit, considering you're not going to be able to answer the door if you didn't hear a knock. But what's more important? The parcel, the grace being delivered. And grace is charis. The Greek word charis is translated into grace, which in the very short we'll use Strong's, especially the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life. How God changes your heart for you to become godly. That's a very important aspect. There's a lot more to it, and we understand that by looking at Thayer. And I may as well say it yet again. Thayer said, the merciful kindness by which God, exerting his holy influence upon souls, turns them to Christ, keeps, strengthens, increases them in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles them to the exercise of the Christian virtues. That's a big sentence, but it's all important. Basically, that God, through unmerited favor, no reason, nothing you can do, but just for his love only, is turning people from sin to godliness, to turning them to Christ, and giving them faith and knowledge and affection. And it's seen through the Christian virtues. The love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's how we know a person's Christian, because we have all those things and people can see those things. All of that within one word, and far more if we look into it. But therefore, I see that word as an incredibly important word. Is it, however, the only thing I talk about? And I didn't intend talking about it again right now. Well, no, it's not. I will talk about doulos, which is the word for slave. I will talk about other aspects of God. I will talk about what it means to be born again. I will talk about baptism. I will talk about other things. Though it is so hard for me to get away from charis, the essence of salvation, because that's what it is. For by charis you are saved, and that uh, for by charis you are saved through faith, and that is not of yourselves; it is the gift of God. Think of the meaning of that uh, verse. How important is By grace you were saved, by charis you were saved. It's what salvation hinges on. And when I say hinges, I've um, just conceived a new backronym. You may have heard a backronym for grace: God's riches at Christ's expense, GRACE. At Christ's expense implies unmerited favor, but God's riches, well, God's reward by allowing you now to have an afterlife of a glorious afterlife in paradise. Well, maybe that could be God's riches. Whatever that person implied or was thinking of when they created that backronym might not have conceived all of the potential value in charis. They might have just been looking at the English word grace. I can't really express what riches could mean there. So, what is the value of what I say? Well, when you've heard me say a certain thing time and time again, the value is diminished because I might be looking at a different facet of the same diamond, but to the average person, well, here it is, the same old diamond again. And I might have worded something just a little bit differently or come across with a slightly new understanding that I've just understood. And if I've only just understood it, I expect that this really should be something new to the people I'm speaking to as well. Why? I don't recall anyone ever speaking on charis. I've heard a sermon or two in my entire life at some stage, many, many a long year ago on grace, and I've heard it referred to as unmerited favour, but the merciful kindness by which God exerting, that's a force of God, his holy influence upon souls, ourselves, our hearts, our lives, turns them to Christ. So it's more than unmerited favour. Oh, well, I'll now let you whatever without you having done anything to deserve it. That's unmerited favour. No, if he's turning us to Christ, there's an action far more than unmerited favour. And all I'd ever heard was unmerited favour, and let alone all the other things within that. God moving your life to such a degree that other people can just see it. You know, you're just doing your average, normal, whatever it is you do in life, and people say, "Hey, are you a Christian?" Because they can see something in you and they think that seems to be God, or you seem to be acting like I would expect a Christian should act. They can see that in you. In the case of people that have known you for your whole life, maybe you used to cheat, lie, and steal, etc. And you're no longer cheating, lying, stealing, but you're now giving back to the people that you cheated and lied to and stole from. And you're being honest and you're being straightforward and you're giving rather than taking. People might look at you and say, "What happened? Have you got God in your life?" Or something like that. That's charis. Having God in your life so much that it is evident that other people can see it, that it is mirrored in your life. that the fruits of the Spirit are bursting through that love, joy, peace, patience, etc. Here I am talking about it again. I just have got difficulty getting off this subject. Though, again, it's not the only thing that I'll talk about. So let's look at what other people talk at. It's where I started. It's where I started yesterday. It's where I started today. I might as well go back there. Why is it people get fixated on just one thing? Well, I understand how I can get fixated on grace. Its value to understand is incredible compared to understanding those other things. Do I need to know about prophecy? Be helpful, but I don't really need to know. Do people focus on prophecy and all they do is talk about prophecy or similar? Yes, they get totally absorbed in something that has a little bit of value. I mean, there's five ministries, five major ministries: apostle, prophet, teacher, evangelist, and pastor. What do they talk about pastoring? No. Do they talk about being an apostle? No. Do they talk about evangelism? Yes, absolutely. Do they talk about, and some people, all they do is focus on evangelism, and they may not even be an evangelist, but an evangelist is called to focus on evangelism, and is one of the things that if you're going to focus on something, yes, focus on evangelism. But those who talk about revelation all the time, do they talk about evangelism at any time? No, they're too busy talking about revelation because this is the be all and the end all. And why do they do it? Look, let's just get to the other two. Teaching. Do teachers talk about teaching and only teaching all the time? Well, teaching is a matter of expressing a lot of different things to um, teach every aspect of Christianity. So they usually cover everything, not just one thing, not just revelation, not just prophecy, not just finance, not just evangelism, but everything. And what did I say? Apostles, prophets, and prophets I didn't kept for last. But the people that claim to be prophets and talk about prophecy, again, it's all they can talk about. It's as if they ignore every other aspect of God. Why is it that certain people ignore everything but finance, everything but revelation, everything but prophecy, everything but sin? Some might talk about sin and only sin all the time. I'll talk about sin at times, though I find it very difficult that if I've been talking about sin, to upload that particular message, because that's one that's usually not so deep, but it's still pressuring. It's still one that might cause anxiety, etc., in people. So my time's running out, and I'll just wrap up by saying this. In fact, I'm going to edit some of this out. So, um, someone that focuses on finance, they often have a fixation on finance because that's what they want. They know it's a popular message. So they know by having a fixation on finance, they're going to get a lot of people watching their messages. And they know that one of the keys to finance is giving. So they're going to promote that giving, and they're going to promote that giving to who? To themselves. Oh, so you want to be a millionaire? Well, then give 10% of that $1 million to me beforehand, and God will bless you. Give me $100,000 and God will bless you to become a millionaire. It's like, it's not always the case, but ouch. Revelation. Gee, people like to hear about Revelation. So again, same kind of thing. I'll preach about Revelation and people will want to listen to what I'm preaching about. I don't care. I don't care about what you want to hear. I care about what you ought to hear. And I don't mean need to hear. I mean something that might draw your life closer to God. Who cares about the money? Who cares about the prophecy? Who cares about the revelation? Who cares about preaching on sin all the time? Mind you, drawing yourself closer to God means that you're going to be walking away from sin anyway. If God is the only thing on your mind constantly, yeah, you're not thinking about sin. That's the idea. We are to become a person that is all about God all the time. What we think about is God. What we talk about is God. What we watch on TV is God. Everything. And it's not you need to do that. No. God turns you to Christ. God will change you so that this is happening. God will make the move. You don't have to do it by your own effort because everything you do by your own effort is you before God. If you are walking away from sin in your strength, I'm going to avoid this. Well, who's doing it? You are, your strength. I can be proud about the sins that I now avoid. Hang on. Pride is a sin. When you're doing it under your strength, you're saying, well, I'm the strong one to do this. I'm not going to worry about God's strength. I'm stronger than God, in a sense. That's the implication. Okay. So I said I was going to wrap up, and it's certainly enough time now to wrap up. I've taken enough of your time for today. Look, if you find these messages good, when you find a good message, give it a good rating out of 10. If you don't think it's so good, put a poor rating on it. So when people come along and have a look, they go, oh, this has got a lot of high ratings. I'll watch this one. Because some of the time people pick and choose the messages that they watch, and the title's not going to help them do that. But if you rate the messages, it will. As well as that, if you thought it was really good, put a comment on it saying this is really good. Post it to your followers, post it on your page. And if you think it was really good, if you think these messages are really good, if you think this group is good, if you think this group is worth joining, put a message on it saying, join this group. Or a link to the group, Facebook/groups/the narrow door. Okay. The details, as always, are below. Contact us if you want to advance in God. Bless you, govern well in Caris.